All right, I am on with the great Drew Massey from Game Time Sports and Training. And Drew is he's in Murray County, Tennessee. So interesting fact about Murray County, Tennessee is it's open and it's open for
It's true.
business. And we are sitting and recording this podcast on a Tuesday, and Drew was open yesterday. So he has 2 full days of operating experience, 2 more days than most of us listening to this probably do. But Drew is a client of mine. He is actually currently going through the 6-week new client surge program, which originally was supposed to end on March 15th. And
Right.
we actually had module 5 today. We took a 6-week detour. So we were going through the program. It's 6 modules. And we were going through the program. And literally this COVID thing hit, and I was like, all right, we're not doing – I was like, there's no way I'm going to be talking about websites today when there's a national pandemic in the world. So we shifted our calls, and I think we did like 6 calls once a week for the last 6 weeks in the surge. So the people that joined the New Client Surge program this round, they got some bonus time for sure. But
Absolutely, we did. It was fantastic.
Good. Happy to do it because I know it's what the industry needs right now. So Drew is going through that program, and as we were speaking, he was telling me he was open, and I asked him to come on the show. I mean, I've had Plummer on, I've had Rick on, but no one has been on the show that's legitimately already been open. I had Rick on, but Rick was on the show before he actually
Before
opened.
he could open.
So we have someone with a vast amount of experience being open post-COVID.
2 days, baby.
So he's got some experience. He's got a lot of stuff under his belt. Now, please know this before we get into it. All of the rules and regulations that you will have to follow are totally going to be based on your state. And in this case, even in Drew's case, his county, because Drew was on the call today from Murray County. And earlier today, we were on the surge call, and there was another member of the surge program that was in, what was the other county he was in?
He's in Davidson County, which is where our state capital is in Nashville.
Which is in Nashville, and
Mhm.
they are closed.
They
So you
are.
have Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, you have some areas where it's closed, some areas where it's open. Who knows what's going to
Corona
happen?
makes the rules right now, man.
With all this. So it's crazy. So whatever Drew says today and whatever he shares with you, know that, there may be things that you'll have to do differently with your state. You just have to really look to your governor or your, really whoever oversees the county. It's crazy. So I appreciate Drew. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thanks, number one, for doing what you did during all this and shifting gears when all this hit, and understanding that, hey, somebody's got to take the reins and talk about this, and not everybody's going through the same thing, but everybody's being affected by the same thing. You did a fantastic job. I consider myself and my partner Taylor, we consider ourselves very lucky to be in this particular surge realm because of your leadership and because of the things that you got on and said, hey, these are things you need to start thinking about. One of the things that hit home with me is, we were both playing because initially we were going to be closed for 2 weeks, and then we were going to be closed for another week. So one of the things that you said was, hey, don't put a timetable on this. And you gave the story of the folks that were in prisoners of war and things like that. And one of the secrets was, the people that didn't do as well were the ones that were like, oh, well, we'll be out by Christmas, or we'll be out by whatever. So that's kind of when I looked at that. I was like, okay, let's just pretend that this is our normal and this is how we're going to survive for the rest of the time. And then it'll be a blessing when it lifts. And so again, thank you very much for your leadership and for what you did above and beyond what was probably even necessary. And secondly, just thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be here.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate that very much. And we've had, it's been a lot, man. I remember when this thing broke, we had Zoom. I must have done a Zoom call every day for like 8 days in a row, in terms of like coaching people through this. And the reality was like, I was like coaching guys through it, but this was like all new to me too. It was happening to me at the same time. So it wasn't like something I had a vast amount of experience with. So, it was great. I mean, I think a lot of the guys in the Surge program have done really, really well. I know, everyone in the mastermind is holding strong right now. So
Great.
it's good. But I'm happy to have you on, and, just give us a little bit. So you own Game Time Sports Training. Just to give us a real brief background of your business. Excuse me. I know you train adults and athletes. Just give us a little breakdown so we can get a visual of what kind of gym you're actually running.
So it's a performance fitness facility geared towards both the general population and the athletic population. We've got some college guys in there right now, just outside the door here, that are, have been home and whatnot. So we believe there's an athlete in everybody, just like a lot of folks do. A lot of businesses like myself, and we're just here to help people realize, their human potential. And we believe that that's done through health and fitness and strength and conditioning and those kinds of things. So that's kind of who we are. That's who our market is. We definitely train more adults than we do from an athlete standpoint, just from a general population standpoint. But they all have a game day, and they all have to perform, whether that be the duties of a mom taking care of a family while dad's at work, or, we train a lot of tactical guys around our area with both the U.S. Army and our local fire department here. So that's who we are in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So I know that we've talked a lot about, I don't even remember what we talked about on this podcast, to be honest. Like, I've done so much of this stuff. Like, I don't even remember what was said and where. And, so, when you closed, you obviously shifted to online, right? So you had a certain amount of your members that you shifted to online. Give us a little brief insight on what you did. And did you keep charging your members the same rate? Did you reduce the rate? Just give us a little background on that part.
Okay. So yes, absolutely. We got the word that we were going to have to shut down on a Sunday. Now, we were open roughly 1 week later than a lot of other businesses closed. So we had a plan, and our plan was this: when we knew it was coming, we were just going to stay open. Our members wanted us to stay open. They felt safe. They felt comfortable. So we stayed open. And when we got the word to shut down, Vince, we had a plan that we developed a Corona kit, because the number one problem when we were going to shut down is people were worried about what they were going to do to maintain their health at their home. And body weight will only get you so far. So we knew the number one problem was access to equipment. So what we did was we developed a Corona kit. When they shut down, we had a 4-hour window on a Sunday that allowed them to come in and pick up a Perform Better mini band, a Perform Better super band, a resistance tube, and a kettlebell or dumbbell of their choice. They could pick whatever. So we kind of leased out, rented out, gave away, so to speak, our equipment. But what it allowed us to do was deliver more effective programming, because we knew what our people had access to.
Yeah, good.
So they came and got that, and then we started to deliver programs in one of 3 ways. We did a Facebook workout every night, and then we did a live Facebook workout every morning. So every morning we were live, and then we would film clips of a new particular workout, and we would put that out at night so that people if they needed to wake up earlier than what we were going to do our live version, they had access to it. And then that way people could replay back that live stream. The other thing that we had a couple of months ago, around October, November, we purchased a package with True Coach, which is an online training platform. So people that had maybe a full gym at their house and could still get full programming, those folks were added onto our True Coach platform, and they got those training sessions that way. So we had a couple of different avenues where people could reach out. We immediately started a private Facebook group. I think Facebook blew any other social media avenue from a standpoint of getting everybody in one together.
Yeah.
They blew anybody else away. And that allowed us to have one central location where our members could go to get the programming, to get the training sessions, but then they also had that option of that True Coach. Now, what we did with our pricing in April, everybody paid full price. And then in May, we went to a unified online pricing structure that did two things for us. It allowed us to still generate some revenue in May, and our members, it gave them a little bit of a gift saying thank you for supporting us through April when we were closed for the entire month. So everybody went to that new online price. So that's basically kind of what we did from a membership standpoint, and also from a delivery standpoint as well.
Okay, great. And so, so now that so you reduced the payments in May,
Yes, sir.
and so, but you're back in the gym now. So will you just keep those payments
The
as
payments,
is?
yes, we just kept the same payments in May, and
Got
now
it.
everybody will move to their regular payment in June.
In June. Got it. Okay,
Yes.
great. So I kind of want to move forward to because it's funny how quickly this stuff goes, because how you used to train your members online is like kind of old news. With a caveat though, right? With the caveat to that is, and I know for me personally, and it's what my webinar is going to be about this week, is the survey results I got where 31.9% of my members are coming back to the gym right away, leaving 70% not sure what they're doing. So you can guarantee you that you're going to need to continue all of that stuff you're doing, which brings a lot of conundrum to it. Before I get into that in terms of the balancing of it, Drew, what was the response from your members when you announced that you were going to be able to be open?
So when we initially announced our reopening, the response that we were going to be open again was great via our Facebook group. Everybody was happy for us. Everybody was glad we were going to be able to get back to work. So the initial excitement was definitely there. However, you still had some of those members that I take care of my grandmother and
Yep.
she's immunocompromised, or I have terrible asthma. Don't feel comfortable coming back to the gym. Or
how are they expressing these things to you? Are they emailing you about it privately? What were they saying?
They're either emailing privately or they are reaching out via Facebook Messenger,
And
Instagram.
what are they saying? Are they saying that they don't want to come back? Like what are they actually saying to you?
We haven't had anybody that has said we are not coming back. Now, we have
Good.
had people say that I don't feel comfortable. I'll see you in June. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to hold off for another month. Now, we have had people that, and this is one of the things that I was going to say when I got on here, I don't know that we've seen the completion of the fallout yet.
Yeah.
Because this thing has affected everybody differently. People are now having to work differently. Like, we had a member that has been a member since we opened, and she, starts her email out with, "Hey, it's with a heavy heart that I have to tell you that I am working," and she's in the medical field. "I'm working at two different clinics. So I'm here in the morning and then I'm here in the afternoon, and I can't make the sessions. So I need to cancel my membership." So I don't, until we see how this has affected our members from a personal level, I don't know that we've seen the end of the fallout from this yet.
So you had people, you announced. Now here's just for you guys listening to this. Drew's in Murray County. Currently, Murray County has 8 active cases of COVID, correct?
That was as of Friday. We had, like I said, 44 to 45. So it's not like we're in a hot spot, and we've had 8, I think 8 was the active cases. So we've had, roughly 30 something have recovered.
I don't even know where it is in New Jersey right now,
I couldn't
but
even
I can
guess.
tell you right now it is. And I mean, there is. I mean, we've had members that have had it, and there's a nursing home literally right next to my gym.
Oh, wow.
Through the woods. It's not like right next to it in terms of like it's separated by woods.
Right.
But uh, 20 deaths in
Wow.
that nursing home, um,
Wow.
literally blocks away. So it's very different in what area you're in and what it's been affected by. So you're in like a not real hot spot, but
We're
you're
not.
still getting people that are somewhat wigged out
Yeah.
a little bit. And okay, so talk about and again, when Drew talks about what he was required to do by the state, and you don't have to give us everything, but
Sure.
give us like a little bit of an update on what you were required to do from a state perspective to be able to run your business.
Okay. So I'll give you a little background about where we are in relationship to like the other gentleman that you mentioned on our surge call. I am about 45 minutes south of Nashville. Now, in that 45 minutes, you're going to go from Davidson County to Williamson County to Murray County. So I'm 2 counties away. The reason for them being closed and us being able to be open is Davidson County is the home of our state capital, Nashville, Tennessee. They are run by they have their own health department that dictates what has to happen in Davidson County. Our health department is ran by the state. So that's why you have those 2 separating deals, and Nashville's a hot spot. So a lot of the reason that our situation is slightly a little bit different, a lot of our people will drive 45 minutes and they'll work in Nashville. So they have seen it in a hot spot. They're not necessarily seeing it here, but that still is enough for them to say, hey, I'm not comfortable coming back into the gym. So when we got the word that we could reopen, of course, we looked through our state guidelines, and there are 3 major groups that when you're going to reopen, you're going to have to look at as a business owner or as a coach that's going to work at the facility. One, how am I going to have to operate and structure my business differently, both from a organizational standpoint and a logistics standpoint? That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, what am I going to ask our employees to do? What is the protocol for our employees? And number 3, what is the protocol for the end user experience? What's that consumer guidelines? What are those guidelines going to look like? So if I had to tell, because I think that could probably be more general when you're allowed to.
Say those again.
Yes, sir. So we've got number 1, how am I going to operate my business differently from both an operational standpoint and a logistical standpoint?
So that would, in terms of operating, that would the cleaning protocol be within that?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
How are we going to clean? What's it going to look like? What areas are we going to rope off? What areas are we going to space out? And then again, from a logistical standpoint.
Okay, good. And then the next one was employees.
Employees, what are we going to ask our employees to do? And then third is, what are we going to ask that end user member consumer? What are we going to ask our members to do?
Okay. So for those of you who are listening to this, is actually a good kind of guide to follow, not knowing what the specifics will be for you, but it's a good way to think. I like things in 3s too, because I think it makes it really simple. But think about how you're going to operate your business, what your employees are going to be required to do, and what about the end user experience, meaning what are they required to do? Will they be required to wear masks and gloves and things like that? So that's great. Excellent.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And then that was the plan when we got the call on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I believe, that we could open on a Friday. So we had 2 days to kind of put a lot of these things into play. So, but when we looked at it and we said, okay, how are we going to chunk a lot of these guidelines down? That basically, those 3 areas are where we needed to look at on how to operate.
Okay, great. And can you give us any of the specifics in terms of the operating your business? What?
Yeah. So I'll do the business part is probably a little bit more detailed, but we can go ahead and do employees and members if you want to do
Sure.
that. We'll look
Yeah.
at that. So first off, you have to have staff to get back to work, right? So we'll do employees first. One of the things that we did on our state guidelines, they gave us a pre-screening questionnaire. It's about 4 questions long. It's, have you been in close contact with anybody that has had COVID or that has COVID? Number 2, are you experiencing any kind of shortness of breath, diarrhea, any kind of medical problem, currently? Number 3, do you currently have a temperature, right? How is your temperature?
Do they make you take the temperature for your staff?
So our staff, every day when they come in, we have them go through that screening. Just mentally ask yourself those things. Now, when we step in the door, all those questions are immediately to the left of where you come in. So you literally can come in. Yep, we posted those.
Did you have to do that?
We did not have to do that. These were just.
So that's an example that you took, that you said, all right, we don't have to do this, but well, I've been saying this till I've been blue in the face with the last few days. A lot of this is about optics, right? What it looks like from the outside to your members.
You're exactly right. I could not agree with you. Said that today in our call. I could not agree with that more. It is, you have to look at optics. What is the perception? Are you taking action?
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're trying to trick anybody or anything like that. It really just means that you're going to do everything you can. But when you're doing everything you can, you damn well better make sure everyone sees it.
Yes.
Right? Having wipes, I always tell the story. We have had wipes in my gym forever, right? But where we strategically had them, you won't walk into the facility and know that immediately that there's wipes there. Versus if you move them to the middle of the floor, now all of a sudden you can't help but see these big towers of wipes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this is about, and I think that's a great point that you make, is about the sheet and posting it. We're doing something similar on ours. Is we're having a 15-minute window of cleaning in between sessions, and we're going to post a checklist, and we're going to post that checklist everywhere. It's kind of like you go to a public restroom, and in a public restroom, there's a signature for the man or for the person to clean the bathroom, and they sign their name. Yes, and you can see when the bathroom was cleaned. Well, same thing. You're going to see that what is the protocol that are. So a lot of this is about the optics, and don't take that for trying to trick anybody. Really, it's just about that you're making sure that whatever you're doing to make the experience safer is seen.
Yes, absolutely. I consider it like it's the same thing as, like, I'm reading a book right now that has to do with manners anyway. But
well, you called me sir, so is that why you always call me sir, or is that
no? That's probably my mom. Like, my mom will be really happy with me. So I'm reading a book right now, and it's one of those things that, manners isn't a problem as long as they're being done and all the time and things like that. Manners is only an issue when they're used inappropriately or they're not used at all, right? If you use great manners, nobody is the wiser. But if you use poor manners, that is like a light bulb going off. So when people are thinking about this in their gyms, like, all you're doing is you're pulling the curtain back saying, we've always had this in place. Now we want to make it more visible. We've always wiped down equipment. We're going to make this more visible. Our wipes are the exact same thing. Our wipes and hand sanitizer used to be on the other side of the counter. Now they're right where you come in to check in. They're right there. That's the first 2 things that you see when you come in. For our bucket, like, we used to do our wipes, and we didn't have the nice towers where the trash can was right there. Like, you'd have to physically walk to another one. So now we went and we gotten these nice little buckets right there, and they're placed all over the gym so people can put their wipes right there. But you look in the floor and it looks different because now it's like, okay, this is where I put this or whatever. So I think that is a huge I think that's a huge advantage. Let your members see that you're taking a proactive approach to these guidelines and to these things that may have, that you may have to do a little differently. Not that you weren't doing them before, but you may have to just do it a little bit differently and highlight them a little bit better.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So you had the thing for the operating your business, the asking the employees on what to do, and you basically had a few questions, and then obviously the end user experience. I know a lot of people have asked this question. We talked about today on the Surge call was the topic of masks.
Right.
And I am deathly afraid of the masks. I really am. It
Yep.
really is a concern to me. I want people to wear masks, but I don't. I don't want
Right.
the virus to spread, but I also don't want someone having a panic attack while they're working out
Right.
because their mouth is covered.
Yep.
So,
I
what
think
were
that's a
you
valid
required
concern
to
for
do
sure.
from a mask perspective?
Okay, from a mask perspective, so if our employees ask themselves those 4 questions, then we take their temperature when they're here. So we have a non-contact thermometer. We take their temperature when they come in, and then, obviously they're allowed to work. But we are requiring our employees to work with a mask. I've coached in a mask for the last 2 days. It is uncomfortable. It's hot. The air obviously gets trapped in the mask, but you can do it. You can coach in it. You're going to have to enunciate your words better. Your coaching demonstrations are going to have to become crisper, but you can do it. I will say this. I would not be comfortable putting our members and saying they have to wear it as well. And here's the reason why. When we first started this, I went through a little bit of a workout in my mask, and your breathing is very, very compromised. And if you've ever been on one of those metabolic tests in college, you can remember like trying to run on a treadmill with this big tube out of your
Yep.
mouth. It's hard. It's more difficult. So I think that people are going to be uncomfortable. Number one, I don't obviously, don't want them to have a panic attack. But number two, that experience is like, if I've got to do this every day, I'm just going to go back and go do virtual, because at least at my home, I don't have to be in a mask. So we are allowing members to make their own choice as to whether or not they wear a mask while they train. I can say for the members that have been here, none of our members have wore a mask. Okay.
Interesting.
None of them have wore a mask. Now, they have worn a mask into the facility. They take their mask off. They did a spin class, and then leaving the facility, they put the mask on. No problem. No, fine. If that's what that's great, But we have not had any members say or come in and try to train through a mask.
Okay, great. So how did you communicate to your members what were the things that you were going to do to keep them safe?
Okay.
So there's the cleaning side of it. There's social distancing, which I do want to get to, what it's like to coach from 6 feet away.
All right.
Us as hands-on, beings, and you're a great coach when you get your hands all over people. But we can't do that anymore. So first go with, how did you announce to your members what it was like? So
because we've been in your great 6-week Surge program, we had a really good idea as to how we're going to get this information out. Private Facebook group, number one, we made a video so they could visibly see what we were going to ask them to do. Number two, we sent out an email to each individual member listing the things that we were doing from a business standpoint, from an employee standpoint, and what we were going to expect them to do. So, Facebook group and email were our initial ones, and then we did one on our website as well. We posted what we're going to look for on our website as well, as we were able to open up. So,
have you done anything externally to let your community know what you're doing and how you're keeping it clean, more from a marketing perspective?
Yes. So if you go back and look at some of our Facebook stories and Instagram stories and things like that, also, you know, a lot of that's being done through social media. You know, what are our procedures? What are we doing? How are we wiping down things? One of our guidelines is to wipe down common areas every 2 hours. So we just set a phone to go off every 2 hours, make sure that we're, you know, doing that kind of thing. From that standpoint. But the one thing that we are doing is we're highlighting that via social media. Like,
Yeah.
you know, here's Coach Drew coaching a mask, and
There's the optics again.
yeah, like here our numbers are capped. So one of the things that Tennessee did was they allowed members to and retail stores and restaurants to open at 50% capacity. We are allowed to open at 50% capacity as well. But one of the things we had to look at was it was by fire code, you know, so our building could hold, you know, 300
Right.
people.
So it
So
wasn't like you could your capacity wasn't limited to you had 6 people and now you can only have 3. It was more
right,
of you can have 150 people in your location, so you can only have 75 at a time.
right.
Bodes very well for us.
Right.
Very
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
exactly. So we looked at it and said, okay, you know, we capped our member classes. We capped our classes and we prevented them from having to come in and physically have to check in. You know, we have MindBody as our software. So we require all of them to register for classes early. That way we eliminate that communal, everybody gathering around that
Smart.
check-in board.
Smart.
People checking in online has gone very, very well.
Excellent. Okay, so you did a great. It sounds like you did a great job of communicating, um, you know, all of this to the members. It's funny. I wanna go back to something you said before I move forward, but it's something that really pissed me off. Not what you said, but in
Right.
general.
Yep.
So when you were giving the equipment away,
Mm-hmm.
so I was one of the first gyms in America to close
Okay.
because I closed before everyone. Um, I closed before everyone was forced to close. I decided to make an executive decision and close early. So
Sure.
I was one of the first gyms in America that closed, and I believe according to my records, right, that I was the first person to rent out the equipment. It was my idea.
I'll give
And
that to you.
all of you guys have stolen my idea. And I can count on 2 hands 10 of my mastermind members that have gotten on the news
Oh,
for
wow.
giving away equipment with my idea. And I've never been on the news. It was my idea. I invented it. I invented the equipment
Venting
rental.
the equipment rental. I love it.
I
I'll give you
invented
credit
it.
for that. Absolutely.
And but it's so funny. Like in the mastermind, every other day there's a post. Hey, I'm going on the news today. I'm going on the news today for giving my for giving our equipment away. But I'm just busting chops. But it
That's
was
funny.
I tell you, it was a really cool thing to do. I don't know if you're listening to this and you did give your equipment away. It was such a community builder and a cool thing to do. Let me skip to. All right, you made the announcement. You did a good job of keeping people at bay on the online program. You're now open. You got a good amount of your clients back. We know that those numbers remain to be seen because it's only the second day.
Right.
Um, what's what's it like, right? Well, actually, before I get into what's it like for the coaching side of it, how have you set up your sessions? How many people are you training at once right now? And are you having people share equipment? Are you giving people their own equipment? Are they in their own space? Kind of talk about the setup of that.
Okay. So number one, we have capped our um, class size to 12, and we felt like we could do 12. We're not like everybody else, and we understand that we have a 7,000 square foot indoor turf field in our facility. So when you space out 12 people in that 7,000 square foot turf field, everybody can have literally their own little 10-yard lane. And they're 6 feet away from the next person. So we just spaced out our field that way. So, and we felt like we could get 12 in there comfortably and they wouldn't be close to each other. So that's our basically our class size. And then we felt like that if we were going to operate somewhat similar to how we operated before, is that we could take 3 exercises or 3 different stations and put 4 people in each of those stations in different areas of the gym and and coach them that way that they're separated individually, but also the group is never in the same place at the same time, so to speak. So that's one of the ways that we definitely set up. Like, for instance, today we'd take our adults through a power section after our warm up, and we had 4 people doing a core exercise against a wall. On the other wall, we had 4 people throwing med balls, and then on our boxes, we had people, jumping onto our box. We had box jumps today yesterday in our program. So basically, the people are spread out individually, and the group is never in the same place at the same time. With that being said, we had bench press today on our program. There are 5 different benches. You do your 3 sets or whatever, wipe down your bench, wipe down your bar, and then you can move to the next grouping of exercise, the next exercise or the next, station over there. The thing that you're going to have to think about is number one, what can people wipe down themselves fairly quickly? And like, we are not using ropes, because ropes, they're harder to wipe off than a dumbbell or a kettlebell. And then, so you have to program your training sessions based on, do you have enough equipment for everybody in your group to have their own? So we always tell people, if we're using cables, you're always using this cable. You always using this cable. And then when you're done, you wipe that handle down. And then you can move on to, say, med ball exercise, and you go grab your med ball, use that med ball, then you wipe that med ball down, and then you go. So like things like assault bikes that we have right now, we're limiting our use a lot on that, if at all, saving that for people that may not can. A lot of our conditioning is done on the turf because, like I said, like, everybody can have their own lane, but if you can't run due to ankle or whatever, then obviously, you can use the bike and we can wipe that down individually. So I think that's going to be a big part of people going back, is making a space that used to fit this much equipment, and now you've got to make a bigger space but less equipment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for sure, talk about, obviously, your social distancing between members, meaning you're putting members in different areas of the gym. But I've been doing the walkthrough in my gym and kind of visualizing what it's like for my trainers to coach people. But there's this kind of, when you're coaching somebody, just yelling across the room usually doesn't cut it.
Right.
And now it's like almost like we've been forced to become bad coaches. Like, hey, get your chest out. It's just like,
Right.
that's not. But that's kind of what we have to do. So your verbal cueing. This is where Nick Winkleman needs to come in and talk more about
absolutely.
his external
Like,
cueing.
his book could not have come out at a better time, right?
Right. But yeah, so getting better at because you don't have the ability to put your hands on people right now.
Right.
So talk about that from your coaching's perspective. Two parts to this question. One, how did you prepare your coaches for that? 2, what was it like in the last, and I know it's only been 2 days, but what's it been like coaching from a distance like that? And is there anything that you found out in the last, 12 hours that you could share that maybe would help?
Yeah. So one of the things that now you're working against 2 different things, because you're having to be louder, right? Because you're 6 feet away, and you're also trying to overcome, if you're playing music, people haven't seen people in a long time, so they're conversing, and you've got a mask on.
Yeah.
So and this is where I think that two things, when we talked a little bit about and we haven't brought all of our coaches back yet. We're operating on a very skeleton staff until we see how this works.
Did you furlough them?
We didn't. We actually had enough where we could basically continue to pay them a little bit of what they were making, and we made sure that we were in contact with them, and I checked in with them about once a week to see how they were doing. So we did not have to furlough anybody over the 6 weeks.
I'd say if there's one thing that anyone needs to take from this pandemic, it's two words: cash reserves.
Liquid, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it is like, I can't, like, the people that have a lot of cash reserves, albeit it's stressful, it's not nearly as stressful for the people that had no access to capital, right? It's just like,
Yeah, it was hard watching that go down every week, I'll tell
yeah,
you.
yeah. And then for the people to be like, if the PPP doesn't come in, I'm screwed, to have to rely on that. And again, if you get it, use it. But, if there's anything you learn from this, it's be safe. I mean, I tell every young trainer that I come across and every business owner I come across, I was like, you have to put money away every month.
Yep.
You have to put money away every month, no matter
Yep.
how little you're making. And it's just, so
you're exactly right. And if I didn't give you credit for the equipment thing, I'll give you credit for this. One of the big things that you said early on, I think maybe first or second week, and then everybody came out with PPP or SBA or whatever it looked like. You said this. You said, if you can pay it, pay it. I don't care if people are telling you that, we'll delay it or we can do it in 6 months, and we'll just take that we'll take that money and we'll just we'll divide it out by the remainder of the months in the year. You came back and said, if you have to do that, do that. But if you can pay it in full, pay it in full. And then you can look at your, if the PPP comes through or whatever that looks like.
Sorry, are you talking about your rent?
I'm talking about, like anything overhead. Yeah, absolutely. Rent,
right.
like any of that overhead. And we were lucky. Like we were able to do that, and we were able to pay the things that we were required to pay and things like that. So again, very lucky, but I can't, if we had not had any of those in reserves, where I'm talking to you in a very different tone right now. Yeah. I mean, probably from the back patio of my house where I'm still trying to find a job. but yeah, absolutely. So we did that.
So you investing in the 6-week new client search program didn't bankrupt you?
No, it did not. It did not. It's been a very wise it has proved to be a very wise investment on our part so far. Yeah.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. So the second part of that question now, talk about what it's like for your team to be coaching from a distance. Like, what is the report back? What is you've been doing this for 2 days now. What are your coaches? I know you're coaching too. What is it like, when you're out there?
So day 2, I walk in and my coach looks at me and he's like, "Hey, how long we got to do this?" If you could see me now, you could see the red part on my nose where mine fits over. It's a challenge. It really is a challenge.
When he said how long you're going to do this, meaning coach with a mask.
Yes, absolutely. How long do we have to do this? And things like that. So about 1 day in that mask, and I think it's going to be like something else is we're just going to have to adapt to that, because no matter what, like the mask, no matter what you wear, your words come out mumbled. So that's why we've said, you're going to have to slow down talking, and you're going to have to enunciate better, especially, and it's got to be loud. Like it has to be loud. You're 6 feet away from people. So, and there's 12 of them. So the other thing that is going to have to be crisp, in my opinion, is your demonstration. The things that you used to, and we've all been there as a coach, you've seen these people come in, they know how to do a goblet squat. So after if that's in your program, like, all right, guys, we've got, 3 sets of 10 goblet squats, here's your heel lift or whatever you're using. Now you're having to, I'm telling, like, make sure that you're demonstrating everything. Like, your demonstrations are crisp. They're exactly what you are wanting to get out of the exercise. Because people have been at their house. We've been given online stuff, but as Zoom, you can see it a little bit. Facebook Live, we couldn't see it, but you're going to have to make sure that those demonstrations are very crisp and your instructions are not confusing. And what I mean by that is, we're going to do a goblet squat. I want you to put the kettlebell or dumbbell under your chin, right? I want your heels on the flat ground or whatever cue you use. We tell people to Velcro their heels to the ground, and then pretend there's a bucket or box or however you're going to cue that. We tell them, and Nick would say the same thing. Like I said, his book came out in a great time, but, no more than 3 things. Like, this is what your starting position should look like. This is how you execute that. This is what you want to look out for from a technical standpoint. Those 3 things, and then hush, because the more you start to talk, the more you start to, do that, the more your words are going to be jumbled. They're going to come through the mask awkward, and you're not going to give those people clear instructions. So I think those are the things that, from a coaching standpoint, where we used to could say, we're going to do goblet squats, and then if you saw somebody doing something incorrectly, you could go over very close to them, put your hands on them if you have to, get them in the right position, fix what you need to fix. Can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah.
So now you're having to coach. You're having to do that with your words, with your body language, and with your demonstrations.
Awesome. Really great. I mean, this has been really powerful, and just to hear it, it's almost like you're on like this different planet, because you're now like one of the only gyms open in America, and we're all still sitting here idle, not able to get in the game.
Right.
Do you have an idea of where your capacity is at? Like, how many of your active members are going to come back now, as opposed to waiting a few weeks or months or whatever? Do you have an idea?
We have an idea. We have, like I said, we haven't ran our complete numbers yet, because we're only sitting at the end of, halfway at the end of day 2. We have a couple more sessions tonight, but with our class size capacity at 12, we are running full 12-person classes for three of them in the morning, and then our 4th one is a little bit less. We only have, maybe 3 or 4 in that. But from a total membership standpoint, I would still say that, we have not seen probably 60 to 65% of the normal people that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
A lot of them are still, so that, leads into the, what are you doing for those? Like, we're still trying to figure out the best way to offer that hybrid, in-house training session, but still give a high quality product, high quality, service to the people that are still at home.
Let's talk about that for a second before we wrap it up. But just, can you shine some light on to that? We talked about that on the surge call, of the importance of that, about balancing the two, and not knowing that if a certain percentage of your members are not coming back, they're going to continue the online, and they still want to have a good experience. And
Absolutely,
it has taken a full-time effort. I know on our end, it's been a full. I mean, I feel like there are some businesses that close, like, so. Some businesses have just closed their doors and not really reached out to their members much. Then there's the other businesses that they kind of like kept doing, what they were doing. They were doing classes, but they do them online, and they deliver a couple classes a day. And then there's the people like myself and you, who I think kind of went and delivered this unbelievable experience in terms of giving them workouts, giving them nutrition, giving them support. And I think that that's going to take us all a long way. But the challenge you're faced right now with how do you balance the two? You have some trainers that need to be in the gym. You have some, trainers that need to be, doing the online stuff. What's the plan right now to balance all that?
So the plan, and that is still something, I'll be very transparent, that's still something we're trying to figure out ourselves. I did not like what we did yesterday, which we tried to do a kind of a hybrid where I would coach the people that were in the facility, but I would also give an equivalent exercise to the people that were watching via live and things like that. In my mind, I didn't feel like I could give the people that were here the right attention, and I didn't feel like I could give the people watching from home the right attention. And even the people from home said, "Hey, yeah, that's fine. We got a good workout. We understood what you're asking us to do," but I could tell like that the quality just wasn't there. So we got a couple other ideas coming out there that I would say that that's going to be very difficult. I think what we need to do, and I talked to Taylor, who I'm just going to go ahead since I've got a little bit of a plat. He's our co-director. He's my right-hand man. He has from 6 weeks he's been unbelievable. Taylor Ellis is his name, and he has been an absolute genius. I know you've met him. He's come to
Smart.
your facility. Very
Yep.
smart individual. He, on a day's notice, changed our marketing plan for getting people to come to the gym to try to get people out. We signed up 3 or 4 members just to have online because their facilities weren't doing anything. So they came to us,
Right.
And that is all that's all Taylor's doing. He's done an outstanding job.
Awesome.
But I think going back to what we're talking about from how do we do this hybrid thing, I think you're going to have to coach your people that come to your sessions. Then I think you're going to have to carve out a dedicated time to the live workout, to the Zoom workout, to however you're delivering your online platform. Like you're going to have to carve out some time, which also means you're going to have to pay some coaches to come in and do something so that product doesn't doesn't derail itself, just because you can't deliver that same kind of quality of service. So I think gyms are going to have, we're going to do that today, and
Yep. And I'll be talking about it a lot more on my webinar this Friday.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
But yeah, and here's the thing too. I'm going to do it's crazy that my goal is to help as many people as possible, but in a situation like this, it's like there's not a lot of right answers until you actually do it for your market and your clients and your members and stuff like that. So I'm going to do my best to give everyone enough information that they can make their own decisions to go off and to do what's successful. I won't sit here on my soapbox and say this is the way you have to do it. But there are good logical ways to think through it. So Drew, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. Check out Drew at Game Time Sports and Training. He's in Murray County in Tennessee, and I know that you've done some speaking as well, right? I know you, Andy,
yes.
Our friend Andy McCloy has you on his.
Yeah, absolutely. He is chomping at the bit right now in Alabama. They hadn't opened him up yet, I think. Yeah. But Andy and I have talked a lot.
Is he open, Andy?
He's not yet.
He's not open yet.
He's not yet. I feel like they'll probably be sometime next week, maybe.
Right.
I'm not, like I said, we're only an hour, so we're kind of right in the middle. I'm right in the middle of Nashville, but an hour south of me is the northern part of Alabama. So I think he's going to be, he's chomping at he's done a great job too with his virtual stuff. Fantastic job.
Great.
We've talked.
Yeah, no, he's such a great coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah. So there you go, Andy McCloy. You get a little shout out. You listen to the FU podcast.
But yep, he had to shut that down. So we're waiting to see when maybe that sports performance mentorship can happen, and looking forward to jumping back into the speaking role a little bit.
That's awesome. Good. Awesome. Well, great insight. I got a good page of notes here. We'll put those things in the show notes.
Sure.
And really helpful stuff. Great stuff today, Drew. Thank you so much for coming on.
You like I said, man, you've been a godsend for us the last couple of weeks through all this. So it was my pleasure. And if I can help anybody out there, please feel free. I'm, Facebook or Instagram, Massey Strength Coach. Please feel free to reach out. I'll be glad to help anybody that I can.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Drew.
Thank you.